Are we ready?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, congratulations
Thank you.
on this new album,
Thank you,
Ludovico.
my friend. Tusind tak. Thank you, guys.
So, my name is Laura, and I'm gonna interview Ludovico about his new album. And I am also a songwriter and have been for 10 years or something. I've been writing songs. Let's say that. Yeah. So, I will admit I didn't manage to listen to the album before this. This was my first listen of the album,
That's good.
and
That's good.
yeah, I was really impressed with. Well, I can't help also compare it to the previous album.
Yeah.
How much more expansive the sounds are, and also just how much more lyrics there are. I mean, I think the amount of lyrics in the first song is like you are singing more there than you are on the whole previous album.
Okay, that's let just let me. Yeah. Actually, I think that the structures of the songs are quite similar in terms of length of lyrics. But I can check it because maybe there are a bit more words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that perhaps the songs are shorter, and in the previous album there is, for instance, the same amount of words per song, but has longer musical
Yeah.
parts, instrumental parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also something I noted a lot, how the previous album, a lot of the songs are woven together and fade into each other.
Mhm.
But this one had very clear cuts between many of the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it seemed less fragmented also, somehow, than the previous one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I have. I mean, I tried it to be. For instance, it has the same BPM along the entire record.
The second record.
Yeah, exactly. The second record, the
Yeah.
same BPM.
Yeah.
And yeah, try to keep the same kick as well and the same snare.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are these hard splits between the songs. Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it seemed more structured than the previous one. So there was something. You seemed very confident on it. I mean, not that you didn't seem that. I mean, the first one I think also really worked in its same way, but judging from how the first one is structured, then it seems like a very confident move. I mean, I felt very proud of you somehow.
Thank you.
Listening to this album, it's like, yeah, you really went for it. Like, you really, it's a bit more almost conventional, I think, in the structures. And I was like, that's amazing. You went for it.
Yeah. I was thinking about the word conservative at some point in terms of
composition.
Yeah. And I mean, the production is very austere.
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 Like melancholic or like sad? What
no,
do you mean?
No.
Austere?
Do you know the word austero, austeridad? Exactly. Exactly. It's like it's like an perspective of keeping the thing as simple as possible. And yeah, and that was part of the production of this album. That it's at some point it's just a piano, a kick, a snare, and yeah. For instance, I tried to record the piano with the highest quality I could reach by myself. That was with a very nice microphone that I got, and sound device, and I wanted that to be listened for instance, in the first album, the piano was very. It was a vertical piano, very simple, let's say, very with a very rough sound. So it got mixed with effect. Now I wanted to listen to the piano because the piano was so beautiful.
But I think also in terms of production, there was also, there was a lot of reverb on a lot of the things, and I also really enjoyed at the first couple of songs there was also some really nice arpeggios going on from a synthesizer, which also was really present.
Yeah, exactly. And I have I invited a friend of mine, which is Christian Scheller, that
I know him.
Lives around.
Yeah.
And so we recorded some of the synthesizers.
He helped you.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that arpeggio thing, it was part of the previous album as well. So the idea with this second album was like to pick the things of the first album that were part of the identity of the album. That was a piano, simple digital rhythm samples, and arps were part of the things. Yeah.
There's also, is it also an analog bass that's on it?
Yeah.
I
mean, for at some points there's a synthesizer analog bass, and as well an electric string bass. Yeah.
Nice.
And at some points there are the two of them.
Together.
Yeah, together.
Yeah, really nice. So what would you say, like now you're saying you've like picked some the best musical parts from the first album and kind of kept on working on those. Would you say there are any themes you have also kept working on from the first album to the second one, or are there perhaps any new themes you are exploring?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tricky process because it's been 10 years. I mean, this day, 10 years ago, I was presenting the previous album that we listened, and after that I tried many times to complete an album as well and release and make this, and I never could, because I never reached, for instance, the quality I was looking for in terms of instruments and recording and microphones, and so and I tried different ways of production, and somehow the album has a bit of different processes that I had during these 10 years. For instance, there are two songs that has drums and like were recorded back home. Yeah.
Okay. But like acoustic drums.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. And so that's it was a challenge to try to make one piece of all these different songs and recordings somehow.
Yeah, to make it cohesive, to make it like one album.
Exactly, to make it exactly one piece.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, it sounds like hi. I don't know, like good to hear just all together.
I think it did.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and also beautiful how it ends off with the acoustic guitar song. That is the first appearance of that instrument. I think that is a very nice way to end off the album also. Yeah, but I think this thing that you said, it took 10 years to record this album. The first one came out 10 years ago on this day, and now December 4th, 2024, another album.
Yeah.
So something we were also talking about earlier, just up to this interview, and what we should talk about was how this album manifested itself both physically and internally. So you said already some of the songs you had written and recorded before you even moved to Aarhus.
Yeah.
Right? But then, well, was it only one song that you actually recorded in Aarhus?
Wrote, because
Wrote,
I recorded most of the things in Aarhus and Horsens, where I study. I recorded the piano in Via University. Yeah. And here in the conservatorium. But there are some recordings that I made back home in Mendoza in 2019.
Yeah.
The drums, basically. But sorry, you were the. It was other question.
I think that the internal and the physical manifestations of the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what was it? When we were also talking, I asked you, so now it came out 10 years ago. How long? I didn't know I didn't, up until a short time ago, I thought this event would actually just be a reissue of your first album. And then I found out, you actually made a new album. That's amazing. It's like, how long did it take you? And you were like, 10 years.
yeah, 10 years. Yeah, it was like a deadline that I couldn't, it was a deadline. And exactly. And but I mean, for instance, one of the songs, it's older than the previous album.
Yeah.
I recorded it with a band was played before that album. And I don't know. It's been 10 years, but the funny thing is, somehow there's something of my way of writing the songs that it's still the same. That it's this brief way of of writing as poetry. I like a small verses. I think it might be a way of thinking, or a way of as the brain functions. I don't know
how your brain functions.
Exactly. Like, for instance, Sarah Camille, it's a very for instance, you're very prolific in terms of words, and you're right, and a lot as well, and so I guess that are just ways of how, I don't know, our thoughts work.
That makes a lot of sense.
Within us, and which we mentioned.
But it's still interesting, I think, that even though you communicate with a lot of words, also as a person or musically, it can still be poetic, right? But it can also be equally poetic to use a lot less words, and then perhaps you are saying even more with what you're not saying. But this is a bigger question. I don't know what you were heading for. I just thought this was an important distinction to make.
Yeah. I mean, like haiku. We like Japanese culture. Yeah. It's just an image. Like, I like that. But for instance, regarding the concept of fragmentary pop that I use, that we talked about it earlier. I use that term for the music I make because I feel it is pop because I like people to like it somehow. No, not to like it, but I sort of feel that I work with the attention of people. So I try to keep the things, for instance, tied to something that I think it's a guess that I make, that will keep people listening. So short songs with a structure. This is my cheap art theory.
I think I kind of get what you were saying. I mean, also that this then becomes an argument for why your songs are fragmented in a sense, right? That it's not just like, okay, verse, chorus, then you know, okay, of course this is where it's going after the chorus. Then that kind of dilutes your attention, or you aren't as attentive because you've heard this before. So you would rather break with these patterns to keep the listener engaged, is what I hear you say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that structure of verse, chorus, etc. It's like a classical structure of a narrative. So, what I mean with fragmentary is because I feel that my songs work together. It's not like the specific song is or an album where there are one after the other that I work on that composition,
that order
exactly, and or when I play live, same. I take my I make a composition for the entire concert. Actually, for instance, I do not make pauses between songs when I play. It's just something that begins and ends. But that's what I meant with fragmentary, because it's a song, but it doesn't make sense by itself. Sometimes there are some of them that have a couple of parts within the structure, but fragmentary regarding they work as a
whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, in its entirety. I think that's a very beautiful way to look at your music. That it's not singles or single tracks. They only make sense in the context of your other songs. So in a larger scale, it could almost be seen like, okay, so they just each have a function. Like, in a classical song structure of verse chorus, then each of the songs have their own function within your whole work. I think that's very nice.
Exactly, and a color. And for instance, some of them are more dissonant, some more major.
Yeah.
And the term pop that I use, that I don't know, someone could say, that's not pop or whatever. It's because I have this cheap art theory about expressionism versus pop.
Elaborate on that.
Okay. Expressionism would be just be very self researching on what you're doing, and just do not consider an audience, for instance. And on the other hand, pop would be, for me, consider the audience. And I do that. It ends up being a mix of just writing from my subconscious, for saying, and just write a song. But when I produce it, I make it pop, for saying, in this conscience of the audience.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's also interesting to think about the audience, and that all of your songs are written in your native tongue.
Yeah, Spanish. Yeah.
But I don't know how many people here speak Spanish. Un poco. No, that's Italian. Sorry. Fuck. Is it also Spanish?
Yeah.
Un poco.
Italian would be un po.
Okay.
Spanish un poco. Yeah.
But in that regard, I think it's interesting to ask you what relation you have to your mother tongue, and perhaps also cultural heritage in regards to your music. Yeah,
but that's an interesting topic. I mean, it's Spanish, and I have this theory as well that it's when I was perhaps, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years, there were some records at home because my father liked music, and I really loved that, and I wanted to learn music. I wanted to learn an instrument. I wanted to be a musician, and so I took classes, and I think that at that time in life is somehow you shape some illusions for your life somehow. I don't know. That's
you're dreaming, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like an illusion, and that music that was very yeah, inspired me.
The fuel, the illusion.
Exactly. Yeah, was some rock and roll bands and musicians,
but from Argentina.
Exactly, from Argentina, who sing in Spanish. About the same things that music is about, love, despair, etc. But in terms of music, it's funny because it's like this Western influence from the 60s, 70s that got into, well, everywhere in the Western world. And of course there's this folk music back home that I didn't grow up in a folk music house, but so somehow my music comes from the interpretation of the of an Argentinian interpretation on the 70s and 60s and 80s of those years, the Beatles and so on.
Yeah, that's interesting. So would you also then, in that regard, say that, of course, it's filtered through all these different layers of culture and how culture spreads, but would you say that in that regard it's also a very conscious choice of you to sing in Spanish as to not necessarily, speak into these narratives of Western culture in English, for example, that you're then choosing to sing in Spanish?
Yeah, I mean, I it wouldn't have made sense to speak in English because I do not know very well how to speak in English. But I mean, the Danish case is an exceptional case because Danish is spoken by 5.5 million in broad continent and world, and back home, the entire continent, the half of the continent or whatever, was a Spanish colony. So you can travel thousands and thousands of kilometers, and everyone speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
More or less, because of course there are indigenous languages that are there around. But so doesn't exist there this idea of another language. It's Spanish for everyone, and it's the same Spanish. It doesn't. We have an accent here and there, but it's a very good language to communicate. Yeah, but I'm an adventurous person and a curious person, so I do. I plan to write in English as an exercise of a language exercise.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it somewhat also does make sense or it's something I also thought a lot about myself, having also lived abroad and then moved back to Denmark. And I was like, I was sure I was gonna start writing in Danish when I moved back to Denmark, given that my native tongue is Danish. And now it's happening a bit. I think what I'm getting at, also you saying you want to try to write in English, is this kind of parallel there is between the songs that a songwriter writes and the life that a songwriter lives. That then, okay, now you're living abroad and you're speaking way more English than you would have been in Argentina. So then it maybe makes sense to write a song in English because so much of your life is in English now. And then the songs that you write will then reflect that in a way, maybe down to the language also. What do you think of that?
Absolutely, and to communicate as well, of course, to be understood.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I will just look at my questions for a bit. Yeah, you mentioned also earlier your approach to playing live, how this was a way of categorizing the songs or contextualizing the songs rather with each other, and that you would play a concert without any breaks and just have all these songs in succession of each other. Is there anything you would add to this, your approach of playing live? And also, I mean, then there is of course the Mozart wig.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I have this 18th century wig, white wig, and and it's funny because performing for me it's a very extreme situation. Sometimes it's a bit calm, but usually it's emotionally extreme. In terms of, I have been always a very shy kid all my life, so I find funny that a very shy kid as me is doing this, like okay, let's listen to my record and to it or
so much attention.
Play a concert, exactly. Perform, and I guess at some part of me likes that extreme situation. You know, you know. I don't know.
I really like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thrill. It's a thrill. Yeah. It's a thrill, but as well, it's a very curious phenomenon. This of being a musician, an artist, and taking a picture of yourself, a portrait, and show it. Yeah, because it's like exactly like. I mean, for me. For time, I have taken sometimes as a game, like yeah, and but it's very mixed with my inner yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
There's also something of playing with your image, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do not think beforehand. Actually, for instance, the title of the album or the name that I chose as an artist, Puar, are things that just, for instance, I have to choose a name because I have a concert. Okay, whatever. This one.
Classic.
Let's go with this one. or the album, same. There's a deadline. Okay. That title, Flor. And the funny thing is that with time, those random choices that I make, have a lot of sense regarding my very I don't know, intimate things.
No, but I think that's very interesting that these choices, you kind of take them because you need to take them, or there's a deadline, and it seems random at the moment. But then, as time goes on and you take more of these choices after each other, then when you look back at them, they kind of all make sense in retrospect. And I think that's quite a nice philosophy towards life. It's kind of trusting that the choices that seem random in the present moment, maybe when you look back at them, they will make sense, and maybe you don't have to stress so much about it in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's very nice.
And there is this fact that deadlines are made up by me. Like, for instance, this anniversary. Okay, it's so independent, all my way of working and project, that I have to create these deadlines to move forward.
No, that's important.
And it's very interesting. I'd like to mention something that we talked earlier, that could make sense to other artists. That it's that, for instance, now this is like the end of a cycle, publishing this album. That now it's published. That it won't be edited in any way. It's something that it will stay like that. It's
permanent.
It's permanent somehow. Is that this Borges, Argentina writer, said we publish to stop correcting.
Nice.
But what was interesting of this process was that these last few days where I knew that this is finishing as a process, it opened other possible futures, but regarding other areas of my life that doesn't have anything to do with art or music.
But I think it sounds so nice.
It's crazy.
It's
so sort of tied to, I don't know if that's a word, but it's so transcendental to
like cathartic. It sounds, if you know this word.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't use it here.
No,
That's okay.
It's cathartic as well. The way of
So do you think there will be another album in 10 years? Or is it like now you can
I don't know.
No, you don't know. That's
also
a long time, 10 years.
No, that's no. No, I guess that I don't know.
No.
But I guess that I will publish music soon.
Yeah.
But do you want?
I was just you want another question or?
Yeah.
So we can talk about the album art.
Yeah.
We can show it. You have it here printed.
Yes.
Because you made the album art yourself also.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is nice compared to the previous album. That was a photograph of you, where you of course also had some art direction. You told me. But I mean, now you did this entirely yourself by hand. What would you like to?
Yeah. I realized that there are knives in the two albums. I don't know why.
True.
But as I said, that this way of trying to just to have it done, and let's choose a title, for instance. I don't know, just thinking in the same way, drawing Flor Roja, which means red flower. I don't know, I just thought in this sort of Manhattan, the drink with whiskey and martini rosso that has like a red color, and everything started to happen about cherry that is like a sort of heart. But what I like to mention is that these are vine leaves and grapes, which is the main motive back home. My homeland, it's vineyards land, and so I don't know. It's like a motive for me, like but I again, this is all random thoughts, like leaving my thought go around. This is like I don't know how would you call
it's a tablecloth.
Tablecloth, exactly.
Yes. Karklud. Yeah.
And and when I was, I don't know, thinking about this cup, and okay, let's put it in a place, and I remind a teacher of mine from the university talking about some female monks. I don't know the
None.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some Catholic nuns who what's the word for
crochet? No, you were talking about embroidery, or
exactly.
or is it knippling? I don't know what that's called. Lacing. I know. Yeah. Exactly.
Lacing, and so it's like it's a tablecloth laced by the. I mean, I was looking at these images of tablecloth for churches.
Yeah.
Of course, the wine is part of the
communion.
Exactly,
yeah.
And it's funny because the last song of the album, that is the only one that I wrote here, and it's the first one that I write since a few years. It's very religious song.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a religious person. I wish I would, but I am not. But the song says it's about all the unknown musicians who died, and that we are all going to be in heaven, having playing guitars and having these drinks.
Amazing. Having Manhattans in heaven.
Exactly. Beers in heaven. It's like
that's what you say, or
that's what she said. No,
yeah. No, that's what you said.
It wasn't properly used, but that's a random thing. But yeah, there's this song in the office that is called "Beers in Heaven."
Okay.
But beers in heaven. But I've been thinking a lot about the about memory, about time. What happened with the things we've made, or what is what will happen with bye guys, thank you. I think that's been a question. What will happen with I don't know, things, us, etc.
Yeah, that is a very nice thought. Also, especially if you're talking about all these unknown musicians, because I mean, I guess there is so much music out there which, will just stay on people's hard drives, or maybe they will just play it for themselves and we will never hear it. So I think that's a very nice thing to write a song about. And then also considering this event that you've now released this album, that it is now public and people can access it to some extent, or to a full extent, I would say. They just need to know what to search for. So I think that's a very nice note to end off the album on somehow. And maybe it's also a nice note to end off this interview on. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I think maybe I have one last question for you, which I think is interesting, given that you released the album, the first one, 10 years ago, in where was
2014.
it? Where physically were you?
Back home, Mendoza.
Mendoza, Argentina.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago, the same date. And now we're here in the Basho Records Kunsthuthese in Aarhus, Denmark. And it's pretty grey and wet outside.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, what was the weather like 10 years ago in Argentina, Mendoza?
That's funny because it was almost summer. So it was a very hot, warm night.
Yeah.
And maybe we didn't end up in the pool, but it was like something like that.
Yeah. Don't know if there's any pool we can end in tonight, unfortunately, in Aarhus. Yeah. But thank you and congratulations on the album, Ludovico.
Thank you.
Sorry, Camilla wants to add something. Oh.
Thank you.
Wait, which one will you? No, just sing it. Sorry.
Just the last song that
That's a great
it's
idea.
about heaven.
Great idea. Yes, please do that.
Tantos cantores enterrados, anónimos, bajo el polvo del siglo XX. Todos iremos al mismo lado. Allá nos veremos, cantando con guitarras, un fuego en el cielo, asado en el cielo, birras en el cielo. That's it. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.